essentially. So, yeah, and just doing my job, as you can see beside me, I've got 4 out of my 5 already published books. The 6th one coming out on Monday. Can't wait. Enjoying some peach tea. Got some of my patches sitting here beside me. Oh, it's a good night. So, where to begin? I guess we should start in the beginning. Let's see, my favorite part. That's what we're going to read. Here we are. Sid had made it to work almost a half hour before his shift, which gave him time to have an energy drink and smoke a cigarette before he had to punch in. He was going to try and get extra hours, but he thought better of it and decided to have a little time to himself. The air was cold and promising, and promising storm clouds were making their way over the mountains from the west, not far from where Sid was standing, and the wind began to pick up almost immediately. He finished his cigarette and energy drink before a cold and blistering mist carried through the parking lot. As you guys could tell, it's fall right now. There were people talking in the office, and one of the voices that was more distinct than the others was the general manager's. His voice also had a tendency to carry throughout the lobby, from behind the front desk. He was tall and assertive. You could tell that instantly from the way he was dressed and the way he naturally carried himself. Sid walked to the office and was greeted by Judy and the general manager. The two were standing in the doorway as they watched Sid walk down the stairs. The general manager rushed the rest of their conversation, and he quickly passed Sid without even a smile or acknowledgement. He had a feeling the conversation was about him and wasn't worried for his job. He knew he had been working as hard as he could, and they weren't going to get rid of him because he was their personal bitch. Sid, I need to talk to you, she said in a condescending tone. He bit his lip as hard as he could to stop himself from saying what he really wanted to say. What is it? He asked in a half-hearted kind of tone. Something was brought to my attention this morning, and I'm going to have to fire you, she sighed, shaking her head and scoffing at him. He crossed his arms and thought for a moment, under what grounds? There's a video of you having an altercation with the police officer, and that's a bad image to have in the workplace, she laughed. I don't even have anything else to say. So wait, I'm no longer employed here as of this moment, right? He asked with his notorious smirk. No, you're no longer employed. She blinked several times. Okay, he nodded. I just wanted to make sure. Have something you want to say to me? She asked, again, rapidly blinking. You have no fucking idea what happened that night. First off, and second, I think you know that. You're deliberately twisting the story because you have wanted to fire me for so damn long. That video, he pointed at her desktop computer, answered your prayers. You could give 2 shits and a rat's fucking ass about anyone in this place. His eyes widened, his posture turned hostile. Because you're a selfish cunt that could give 2 fucks about what anyone else thinks or feels aside from yourself. Fucking legendary. God, it's one of my favorite scenes ever. Based on true events, by the way, this book here. As you guys know, this is the display version of this, so good stuff. What's another one here? This one, another one. Yeah, again with my name on it. Yeah, I'm a fucking legend. Let's see, my favorite scene in this one. I don't want to read the chairlift scene because I want you to buy the book and read that scene for yourself. It's fucking amazing. Let's see. Cassie looked at his phone with bewilderment. I thought you'd like to know that they are running a little behind. Since when did you become paranoid anyway? All right, tell Alex and Jacqueline. Approach the phone poles to the right where the roadwork shack is, Sid demanded. Cassie nudged his head, directing them to go. I sense worry in your voice, Sid. You doing all right? Sid hung up and shimmied down the hills to get a better look. The detective kept his guard up and his hand on the revolver. Sid counted to 10, taking deep breaths and racking around to the chamber of his pistol. He slid the gun back in his snow pants and walked towards Cassidy with his hands raised. He knew that if he kept his word, Matt would keep his. The only The only thing separating the two was their ideology. Sid called out for him, called out for the detective, called out for him, and the detective immediately turned with his 44 drawn. I have a gun. It's in my right pocket. Sid slowly approached closer. A deal is a deal. He turned to Jacqueline and insisted that she stay put. All right, just keep your hands where I can see them. It's been a very long day, and I'm not sure putting a bullet in you would make it worse. He smirked at the detective. It's all good, man. And don't worry, my people didn't show up either. Good. Matt sighed with relief. That's good. He stood in motion down at the ground with the barrel on your knees. Sid could tell by the anger in his eyes that Cassidy wanted to destroy him. He pulled the firearm from Sid's pants and tossed it into the dirt. Hands behind your back, he demanded. Sure thing, Sid complied. Matt wasn't so trusting and quickly cuffed him. Part of him was beginning to think that it was all too easy. Sid looked over his shoulder. Jax, we had it all wrong. It wasn't Williams that killed Tasha. Sid spoke with sympathy circling his words. Her eyes went wide, and her entire body shook with anger and despair. What? Her lips quivered. Cassidy tried rushing Sid into the vehicle. No, let me talk to her, he glared. You're gonna want to hear this, too. He turned his focus back to her. So the reason why he ends up leaving is because, he ends up going to New York and then returns to New Hampshire. You can read all that for free on Amazon. I don't got to read the whole book to you, but that's just to give you a scene of like the escalation. So as you can see, Sid's always had an issue with authority in this book. A fucking legend. So there's that one. And then let's see, yes, this one. This one's great. I like this one. And I don't know which part I want to read to you from this one, because this one's just so good. I love it. Let's see. You know what? I'll just read the introduction to you. Parts of it anyway. Where's my yeah, I'll just read this. This is the introduction. It was a night Richie would never forget. 3 years after his friends were murdered, and he was living with Taro, Jackal, and Gemini, if you've read the first Reaper's book. And I don't have it because I've lent it to my cameraman. I'm sure he'll bring it back to me at some point if he hasn't just fallen in love with the book. I'm sure he has. 3 years after his friends were murdered, he was living with Taro, Jackal, and Gemini. He was sitting at the kitchen table in their house in Maine, a beautiful home with 2 floors and 3 bedrooms. It was right off the beach in Old Orchard, and he could hear the waves of the ocean. He looked outside to the starlit skies and the full moon. He was sipping from his bottle of Jack Daniels and smoking a cigarette while others were asleep. Slightly drunk, he stood from his chair and stumbled to the bathroom and a hallway downstairs. That's when he had heard someone walking around upstairs. Assuming it was one of the girls, he shrugged it off and continued to urinate for what felt like a whole minute. You have to add urination to the books. You just gotta. Richie walked over to the bathroom sink and drank a glass of cold water. That's when he heard a thud followed by a brief scream. He rushed out of the bathroom and opened up the small coat closet by the stairs. His heart was racing as he removed an AR-15 from behind the jackets and racked around in the chamber. He quietly walked up the stairs and heard screaming once more. All 3 bedrooms were on the second floor. The first door to his right is where Tara was sleeping. He pushed the door open and found her lifeless body laying on the hardwood floor. Richie bit his lip and closed his eyes, but anger had taken over as he went into the next bedroom. Jackal was sitting up against the headboard with blood splattered behind her. Quickly, he ran to Gemini's door. He could barely hear her muffled screams and pondered how to handle the situation. If he barged in, there was a risk of Gemini being shot in the head. Richie glanced over his shoulder and took a deep breath. Part of him wanted to open fire, but the potential of accidentally shooting Gemini was far too great. Instead, he decided to knock quietly in the hopes that someone would answer. I thought I heard screaming, Richie said calmly. Footsteps approached the door, drawing closer, and subtle whispers of demands were heard. Everything is fine. Gemini's voice crackled with fear. Richie closed his eyes with his finger on the trigger. Can I come to bed? Richie asked, stepping back and raising the barrel of the rifle. I'm not feeling well, Gemini said, holding back from the screaming for help. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. All right, well, I'll be downstairs if you need anything, but Richie stayed right by the door, waiting to hear the person walk closer. The floorboard creaked in front of the door, and Richie squeezed the trigger. 3-round burst into who he hoped was the center mass. Into he hoped was the center mass of whoever was standing there. He tried opening the door, but something was in the way. He threw himself into the door and squeezed himself into the door hinge. They fought to at least keep the door ajar. The person laying on the floor was masked with a suppressed .22 pistol in their hand. Come over here, Richie. Come over here, Richie waved Gemini over with the rifle pointed at the masked man's head, who was breathing heavily and bleeding out on the floor. Richie picked the pistol up and knelt down beside them, pulling the black mask off their face. You know this person? Richie asked. Gemini clung to him, trembling. All right, asshole, here's the deal. I've put 3.556 hollow tip rounds into your guts. I have put a little lead in your diet. Does that sound familiar? It's a fucking great line. It's fucking legendary. He laughed. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't even get to finish that part. Let's see. So you're going to tell me why you're here and who sent you? The man spat blood and smiled. He laughed and coughed. You have no idea. Richie shook his head. You're right. I don't. And with that, Richie held up the .22 and shot the man in the leg. But you're sure as fuck going to tell me. So that's just part of the introduction. So home invasion, this kind of bleeds into what ends up happening with the rest of the book. There's a little bit of a callback, but it may never be solved. So that's that book. What else do we have here? Talking about me for a minute. Here we go. Grains of Chaos. I think that's the last one we got. We've already read from each book already, and it's only been 12 minutes in the live stream. It's excellent. Grains of Chaos, my favorite. Second, third favorite. Maybe I liked that one more. Who knows? But still great. My favorite scene from this book, something that won't give too much away. Oh, I'll read you my favorite part. I've read this probably 150 or so times. It's my favorite bit of dialogue. I love it. Let's see. It's back here somewhere. Not Damn by Dawn. I thought... here we go. I found it. I do believe. Here we go. I found it. I told you to take a minute, but I found it to my one viewer here. Hey, bro, look what I found. Wade said a few feet away from him, holding up a pair of swim trunks. They were green and black with a gold shield on the crotch. It's perfect, Sid laughed. They had my size? Wade checked the tag. Yep, I'll take them. He walked over to him and showed him what he had found. Nice. Whitey nodded with approval. I got my stuff here. I decided to go with these. He showed him the camo Zippo off pants. And, of course, John Deere. Christ, Sid shook his head. We've become women. After they purchased their items, they went to a traveler store to get some razors and shaving cream. Mind you, they're in a mall. So it's like H&M, which I assume they're at, if I remember correctly. Yes, they're at H&M. So they're in H&M, and then like the shop is obviously in the mall. So I don't need to spoon feed that to you. Along with toothpaste and toothbrushes, again, it was like that they were one of the last ones to survive an apocalypse. Funny considering, today's day and age. Again, the book that predicted everything. So just to continue here. They paid for things that they needed and left. Walked to the mall where store clerks and managers stood outside their shops, bored and ready to go home. They headed down the small hallway to the restrooms. As he was opening the razor package, Whitey glanced over with a thoughtful look on his face. Can I ask you something? Sid was running the hot water to soak the razor head under. What's on your mind? Splashed water on his face, looking over to Whitey. How long do you think all this will last? Whitey leaned on the counter with nothing to do except staring at his new clothes and conversation with Sid to pass the time. All of what? Change people are under the impression they're creating. He scoffed and shook his head. Did you know in Rome the gladiator games were held once a month and the Senate was taxed so the people didn't have to pay to be more entertained? Essentially saying the Senate was the one that paid for the gladiator games. No. Whitey looked at him, clearly confused and unsure of anything Sid was talking about. Well, there was an attempt on the Emperor's life. Sid sprayed the blue shaving cream on his hand, rubbing them together before lathering his face. It was his sister that organized it. The Emperor survived the attack and eventually found out that it was her. Her reason? He splashed the water on the razor one more time. Because he was born. I have no idea why you're talking about Rome. We live in America. Whitey laughed and leaned against the counter. Because we aren't a democracy, brother. This country's principles and the system is what they call an oligarchy. Look at the Roman Empire, the gladiator games once a month, every Saturday. Murder committed under the shadows of government, and people that hailed their leader as one of the greatest. He pulled the blade away from his face. It's 2019 and things aren't much different. We're watching football, sports, mindless television shows, listening to the radio, and watching Fox News. Hey, I watch Fox News. Whitey shook his head. You're not seeing the bigger picture. He rinsed the blade of the hair and continued. You and I both agree our government was behind 9/11 and John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Lincoln. HARP has been confirmed to exist. The Occupy movement was a distraction, and Rome was no different. Sid rinsed the blade, tapping it against the sink. Don't forget Plum Island. Whitey pointed at him with conviction, most likely. Sid smirked, and you think Fox News and Donald Trump are what's going to save us? Those people outside think the same thing about Bernie Sanders at the same time they're screaming anarchy in the USA. God save the trumpets, down with the system, kill fascism. Sid whacked the razor against the edge of the sink, rinsing it off. Even if Sanders passed his student debt-free bill, and it passed, he either ends up like the Kennedys or is accused of not being born in this country. Sid smirked, finishing up shaving and doing a once-over. History doesn't repeat itself, brother. It's just a continuation. How long do you think this is going to last? His eyes went to the stalls and mirrors. Sid wiped his face with a paper towel. Either too damn long or not long enough, Sid shrugged. And what about you? Whitey asked. Sid raised an eyebrow. What about me? When does it end for you? He asked. Sid turned and shrugged. I don't think it ever will. That's my favorite scene of all. Well, one of my favorite scenes from Grains of Chaos. Fucking legendary. And just look look at this. This is the size of Grains of Chaos. You do the math on that. And then you've got Dissent is Not Treason. You've got Nuclear Winter, Eaten Alive. I mean, just the books are just absolutely phenomenal. Those are going to stay put. Those are going to stay put. So, yeah. I just got to read a little bit from each book. So you guys, or you, girl, got to enjoy this little Sid Talks. Good stuff. So, I don't know if you are aware, to the one person watching this, that I'm not happy here on Twitch, and I made a couple of decisions. Since I am in charge, I am the boss. I have made the decision that I'm going back over to Facebook, and Crazy McCormick can be in charge of Twitch, and I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing and enjoying. And yeah, I'm pretty much just here to pay my dues, and apparently I'm not even at my 3 viewers yet, so I need like 2 or 3 more people. So I guess I could just go ahead and share this out. You know, I tell people 6 p.m. I put up a status, I post the link, and nobody is listening. So there's going to be a penance to pay for that. They're about to just find out. Just okay. This is excellent. Oh, we got 70 supporters on my thing. That's cool. All right, so let's see. Copy and bring it over here. And here we go. Mm. Oh, that's right. That feature doesn't work on my laptop, so I have to do it all manually. Oh yeah, just so you one person knows, I'm still alive. I just don't care. Um, Shucks the video. There we are. Yeah, I got you. Cool. All right, I did my job. All right, so I also did share this and things of that nature. Yup. Mm, ah, read from a book where I got most of my education from. This is from a chapter called Anarchism in France. In this parliament of anarchy, each is his own representative and the peer of his associates. Oh, it is very different from what happens among the civilized. One does not perorate. One does not debate. One does not vote. One does not legislate. But all young and old men and women confer in common on the needs of the human sphere. It is each individual's own initiative that grants or refuses him speech, according as he believes it useful to speak or otherwise. Neither the majority nor the minority ever makes the law. If a proposition can gather enough workers to put it into operation, whether they be in the majority or the minority, it is carried out as long as it accords with the will of those who support it. And usually it happens that the majority rallies to the minority, or the minority to the majority, each yielding to the attraction of finding himself united with the rest. Natural solidarity, in other words, becomes the uniting and activating force of the humanist sphere. As it is in the world seen by all anarchists, it is true that an administrative bureau will exist in each humanisphere, but its only authority is the book of statistics, just as each individual will be his own master in every respect. So each human sphere will be autonomous, and the only relation existing between the various communities will be economic, based on the exchange of products, but this exchange will be free in nature, deriving from universal benevolence and keeping no account of obligations. I like it. I like the fact that I have no obligations. Exchange takes place naturally and not arbitrarily. Thus, one human sphere may be given more one day and receive less. It matters little, since tomorrow it will doubtless receive more and give less. Here, mingled with so much that derives obviously from Fourier and from Proudhon, tomato, tomato. We have a clear anticipation of the idea of economic organization elaborated by Kropotkin in The Conquest of Bread, since Jean Grey republished, I'm going to butcher this, La Humanosphère. That's French. It is possible that his friend Kropotkin was aware of Desjardins' ideas. I have dwelt at some length on Belagareg, Correriteroy, and Gérard in order to show the variety of thought among French anarchists, even during that early period of the 1850s, but none of these men exercised any appreciable influence, either direct or deferred, When anarchism began to gain importance in France during the 1860s, it was at first mutualist in character, deriving almost entirely from the ideas Proudhon elaborated during his last months in De la capacité politique des classes ouvrières. Although some of the mutualist leaders, such as Tolan and Limousine, nice car, departed from Proudhon's where does it live off here? Absentationist attitude towards politics by appearing as candidates in elections. The movement was generally non-political in character and sought to permeate the workers. Associations of various kinds that were beginning to emerge as a result of Napoleon III's policy of trying to woo the support of the lower class. Mutualism not only became a dominant influence in many of these organizations, particularly where they had a cooperative orientation, its advocates also began in various directions to revive libertarian journalism. Man, if only we had a little bit about that now, huh? Some of the most active propagandists, here he is. Hi, Twiggy. Thank you for joining us, Twiggy.
No problem.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
I'd like you to say hi to our one viewer.
Hi, how you doing?
I was just reading from a book of anarchism and such. You were talking to me in the chat talking about how taxes shouldn't be a thing.
Technically, they aren't a thing.
Explain.
What is money?
Currency. The ability to purchase goods and or services.
How do we create money?
Value.
And what gives something its value?
Well, technically speaking, in marketing terms, it's what you and me would consider value. So it's like if I see something like this book was, I think $4.99, something like that. I'm like, that's what I'd value this book at. But I would have paid up to probably $40-$50 considering this book is out of print and this is one of the original prints, I do believe. Let me double check that. Nope. This is the fourth printing I have. Its original printing was 1962. I have the 1970 version, but it is an original Meridian book, so that's kind of cool. But this book goes all the way back to 1962, and it is out of print now. They don't just print out this book anymore. Like, this is old. So you don't get to just find this book anywhere. My first version that I got was all torn apart. I still have it.
So they wouldn't even say that the book that you're reading is in some way in high demand, I would assume.
It's Anarchism, A History of Libertarian Movements and Ideas. Because people forget that anarchism, there's different schools of it. We were just reading actually about how people come together in solidarity and how it would be the people that would actually establish a system. Let's see. It was an anarchism in France. Let's see. Do I have it here? I think I might have missed it. Let's see.
Well, in ancient times, in Chinese culture, obviously they didn't have metal excessively available like they do nowadays, and they obviously did not have any sort of paper currency. So
no, but they had coins.
They used seashells too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then if it would be based off of value, like if it's a really good seashell, you could probably get, a really nice apple with it. But if you've got a seashell, it's got a crack down the center of it, it's not going to be worth fuck all.
Right. What is the value of our currency being put in? Is it being put into the time that the other person is taking out of their day to do whatever it is that you're paying them for? Or are we putting it into the product in which they are making?
Well, that depends. It depends on where you're buying from, but ultimately they make it so that way they can still make a profit. For instance, if have you ever heard of I forget the name of the company, not the MLM program, but there's another one. You can order straight from this catalog, but you have to have an EIN number to do so. And if you have an EIN number, you can order through this company, and you're basically getting it at wholesale price, but they're still able to make a profit off of it. Like
So it's
these.
kind of like QVC and IKEA and all that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So because you have an EIN number, not just a civilian per se,
Right.
you get an EIN number, you can buy knives, sell knives, all this other shit, right?
Right.
But if you go to a store, you're buying it at what their retail price would be. Now you
Now,
could try and sell more than that, but as you and me both discussed, we could sit here and have a discussion on whatever. We could go on eBay, Amazon, and we'll sit there and we will look for the best deal. We'll look for the person that's sold low, like way too low, and that's the person we're going to buy from.
right.
Max, humans are pack animals. Leaders naturally arise within packs. Human or otherwise, a form of hierarchy is natural. Imagining a world without hierarchy is fully anarchy is dumb. Okay.
I can agree with that. It is in our nature to have some form of hierarchy.
Well, I was actually just reading about that. Had somebody been paying attention? So I will read this portion. Let's see, where is it? Robotnik continued into the early months of 1876. It was followed in 1878 by Obrashina, which is a community in which the members of the revolutionary community collaborated with Stepniak. I guess you'd pronounce that Stepniak.
I don't know, some German word.
Axelrod and other Baconists recently fled from Russia. The tone of Ashina was cautious and consolatory, but it remained Baconist in its rejection of the liberal idea of constitutional government and its insistence that the peasants and workers must win their freedom for themselves. The revolutionary community and the press it operated were openly and frankly anarchist, responding to the situation in Western Europe, where Raleigh, and I'm going to butcher this name, Zukovsky. Actually, no, I'm not. That sounds about right. Zukovsky. Maintained close links with the Saint Emir International and particularly with Elisée Reclus. And the group connected with the Geneva anarchist paper Le Chevalier, that's in France, by the way, continuously enough, they had little to do with Kropotkin, who adhered at the time to Braus's rival paper, L'Avant-Garde. And those contacts with the Russian movement after his escape in 1876 were to remain scanty for almost 20 years, during which he gave himself to the cause of international anarchism. So they worship this guy who's in jail. They're trying to get this guy out. They're trying to help this guy, whatever, right? So they've already selected a leader for it. See, anarchism isn't about having no leader and no government. It's about the lack of a government and having the scale shifted to the ability of the people versus whoever the authority is. Because if the people have control over that hierarchy, if the people are like, hey, listen, we like you for X, Y, Z, but don't forget, we can easily overthrow you. What it does, it scaves the balance. For instance, do you remember back in high school, and I know you thought this, you son of a bitch, I know it. I see that look on your face. Back in the day, where we'd sitting there doing our thing, and we'd sit there and we'd look at each other. And we'd turn around and we'd say to the other student, hey, you know, there's more students than there are teachers here.
I've thought about that.
Right. But you didn't do anything to overthrow it, right? You didn't overthrow your school. You did nothing, right? None of us did. That's because we didn't put them into power. They were already chosen for us. If you put somebody into power, you should have more of an inclining to want to be like, okay, listen, you kind of fucked us and we have your back. Now we're going to overturn. And that's one of the reasons why we only have a two-party system. It's one of the reasons why we don't get a whole lot to the American system. Now, I've tried to explain this to people on multiple occasions. So yeah, anarchism does work if people would get away from the whole, it's leaderless. That's never the case. There's always a community of people that say, okay, we're going to put this person in charge. Now, normally what happened in a lot of these communities, they would put somebody who was strong and bold at the front, but somebody who was compassionate enough and had enough empathy to connect with the community.
Okay.
That's who they would work with, is somebody who was easy to work with. Now, the person who's like all boastic and shit like that, they wouldn't have put in power. Now, that's one of the reasons why in Germany you had people who weren't even Nazis actually celebrating Hitler, because they loved him. They all wanted him there. It was a unanimous fucking decision. He won in a democrat. He won in a democratic process. Thank you. It was a democratic process where Hitler was actually elected. Okay, and then what ended up happening is he became a dictator, but nobody.
He became a dick.
Yeah, but nobody opposed him because he had ideas to fix the economy.
Okay, so I ask you this: what do we use taxes for?
To pay for the things that we don't necessarily want to pay for that have to be paid for.
Such as?
Well, depending on who you ask, we put into research, we put into our infrastructure, which is subpar. We have to put it into roads, we have to put it into government services, and more importantly, the people that are on welfare.
Okay, so let me reiterate. Make sure I'm understanding you correctly. We are taking these taxes that ultimately is our money, moving it to another part of the system so that those people within the system can get paid to do their job.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
I still don't see how that counts as taxes.
Well, because they're taking it against your will. They call it taxes instead of theft.
But they're doing the same thing with the people that are working on the roads as well.
Yep.
It does not matter what job you have. There is going to be money taking out of your check and always going to somewhere else. Okay, imagine you're living on a river. You're at one part of the river. I'm at another.
Yep.
That river is constantly flowing. It never stops.
Right.
You have to take some of that water and bottle it up and give it to a friend because they don't have access to the river. That is the taxes. How is that going to stop the rest of the money flow when it's all going to the same fucking place to begin with?
Well, it's trickle down economics. Okay. All the money goes up and then a little bit comes back down for us, right? We get the scraps essentially. As I'm sure you're aware, in a lot of states, minimum wage is still $7.25, and the states go by that. Like, that is their line that they draw.
Right.
And in places like New Hampshire, it's fucking expensive to live out there. What we found out is the more populated the places, the more expensive it is to live. All right. Because supply and demand. So if I live in a town of 5,000 people and we're at a grocery store and there's all this demand, well, price might go up. But at the same time, for whatever reason, people have to make up for losses. So even in the small towns where, let's say, a population of like 500 people, there's one grocery store, costs could either be low or they could be high because they could be saying, well, our milk's going to expire because there's not enough people that live in this town. So it becomes more, right? So how is it that a gallon of milk at a convenience store, which is funny because their prices aren't necessarily convenient, you go into a convenience store, it's like $4.99, $5.99 for a gallon of milk. But if you go down to Walmart, you can get a gallon of milk at the right price for $2.99.
And there's a reason behind that, is there not?
Yeah, it's, again, as I just said, you've got stores like Walmart. They're pumping out milk like crazy, so they're refilling that demand. And corner stores, they're like, well, this shit might expire, so I'm just going to make it really expensive so I can at least pay off like 2 or 3 of these gallons of milk with just the one. There's that mentality with it as well. Or you've got the idea that the fact that your local corner store gets it straight from the farm right across the street, and Walmart would get theirs through their cows that they've just got soaring through like a fucking factory where it's like, oh, we're gonna milk this cow, kill this cow, and then rinse, lather, repeat. You know,
pretty much. And everybody wants to blame it on taxes.
But here's the thing, man. I'm gonna put it to you like this. I'm one of those people that believes this. if I'm going to end up having to pay for a service, right? If I'm paying to rent this building, now there's pros and cons to renting, and I've told people this numerous occasions.
Yeah.
Literally, what it is, it's no difference than paying insurance, health insurance, and so on. You're paying for shit. You're paying for something in case something happens. So when you're paying in place for, let's say, $1,200 a month, right?
Okay.
But your stove breaks. Well, stove is like $1,500. You just got a stove, which they replace for free, right? Installed. You didn't even have to pay for the installation, right? So that literally took care of 1 month's rent. When you think about it, you paid 1 month's rent to have that stove replaced. So insurance works the same way, right?
Essentially.
But you should have the choice of whether or not to live in a house or an apartment, correct?
Yes.
So that's what I think that should happen with taxes, and that's what I think should happen with the medical, with insurance. For instance, if I don't want insurance because it's actually cheaper to not have insurance, as we've learned, then if you're healthy, or even if I decide to pay $2,000 for my health issues, whatever the fuck, right? If I paid $2,000, my insurance still might not touch it if I've got an $8,000 deductible. So I'm also paying $300 a month for that. So if only the $2,000 that I needed, right? I'm paying out of pocket anyway. So I'd have paid out of pocket anyways. Let's say it's the only thing I need to get done all year long.
There was I don't talk to her anymore, but there was a chick when I lived in a trailer park who stayed in a hospital. I vaguely remember the story. She stayed in for some 6 months or something like that, and she didn't have insurance. And she had a bill of $600,000.
That sounds about right. 6 months, you figure. It's like, I think they boil it down to like $350 a night, something crazy like that. Yeah.
Something like that. How is she going to pay that?
Yeah, you're not going to like that answer.
Humor me.
Okay, so here's how it works. There's a program that hospitals often do. If you don't have the means to pay, there's a poverty paperwork thing that you can fill out, right? So what ends up happening is I fill out my poverty paperwork and I say, hey, I can't afford this. I make this much a month. I give them all my fucking information. They're like, oh, okay. So we can either take care of some of this, quarter of this, or all of this. But here's the kicker. What these hospitals and places like that, what they can actually afford to do, what they actually do now, is they use it as a tax write-off because they gave a service they didn't pay for. So technically, it's charity work, right? Volunteer work. So they're getting that money back at the end of the year any fucking ways. But what I think is fucked up is they get double dip because that still hurts your fucking your rates, your number there, your 740s and your 850s and shit like that.
Right. But do you find it the least bit curious that literally every single year the cost of living seems to go up?
It's not like it used to be. You used to be able to write off a whole bunch of shit. You can't.
Say again, Twiggy.
Don't you find it the least bit curious that the cost of living seems to go up every year?
Yeah. So there's something
There's really
called
no need for it.
there's something called inflation. So
Again, I mean, I know that exists, but it shouldn't because there's no reason for it.
okay, so we don't get to decide that, unfortunately, but because of the system that we do have in place, which we can all admit that it's not perfect.
No arguments.
Okay, so they get to basically decide, oh, hey, we're going to up the cost on this because it's costing more to produce this. Well, do you know what causes inflation? What the big part of it is, what the major, where the fault line is for it, like where ground zero is to inflation?
Enlighten me.
You and me having 15, 20 kids. That's what causes inflation because you've got more people buying more shit and they're thinking, okay, it's going to cost more. Like, think of it like, I'll simplify it. Steel, right?
Okay.
If I've got a plethora of steel, right, and I've got 5 people that buy from me, those costs are going to relatively stay the same. Like, hey, man, you want the usual? Hell, at this point, I could probably even throw them a 20% discount, 30% discount because I'm a nice guy. I'm like, yeah, you still got that? You still got that 1040 steel? Yeah, I fucking do have that 1040 steel. Yeah, I'd like to have a couple more sheets than I did last order. Oh yeah, sure, no problem, man. And I'm gonna actually throw in another one because you come back into your guaranteed money for me, and I'm still making my profit, right? As we had discussed, your wholesale price versus retail price, and if you've got wiggle room, for good people, you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was just wondering.
So back to the whole point of inflation, right? So now let's say those 3, 4, 5 people have been buying steel from me, right, for like 10 years. So it just goes and goes and goes, right? But now all of a sudden they got their buddies that want to start buying from me, right?
Yeah.
And I've got that same price, right? And I'm like, yeah, cool, I could do that, you know. But now I'm starting to realize my steel's going a lot faster. Now I need guys to go forge this steel, break this steel, basically, plane the steel, do whatever it is that needs to take to have the steel be there for availability, right?
Okay.
Now 500 people are coming to me for my steel. It just got a little bit more pricey because I got to put these guys back to work. I've made it so that way these guys have to go and find more of the steel. I have to have that shipping containers. Basically, it's overhead. And what inflation is, it's a large amount of overhead that stacks up. Milk, your staple items, clothing. Like,
Right.
I don't know if you remember this, but Champion clothing used to be fucking dirt cheap, right?
I remember.
Okay, well, some rock star motherfucker decided he was going to wear Champion like it was a fucking $500 brand, like it was Reebok. And now all of a sudden Champion's selling their shit for much more because now there's more demand and
Because
they can
they're
actually
popular.
Right. Now what inflation is, it's basically just everybody being like, yeah, there's more people, they're buying more of my shit. I need more people to manufacture it. So you've got delivery, right? So not only are you ordering this milk, but there's got to be transportation for it, which involves cooling. You got to make sure everything's cool. You don't want to buy milk on the back of a fucking tractor in the hot sun.
Even though they used to in the back in the day, but anyway.
Right. But now you've got electricity. Now you've got things you got to keep. You've got employees and shit like that. So what companies are starting to do to cut down these costs and to prevent inflation, and this is what's really going to suck, but this is one of the reasons why we actually have poverty lines. This is one of the reasons why we have poor people, is they are essential. These poor people are essential to the government. See, they don't want you to necessarily have a job. The reason why a lot of the government wants you to live off of them is because they can maintain what they give you, and it prevents the cost of inflation. It prevents inflation. It prevents depressions and shit like that.
It sounds almost like you're describing what's going on in China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's happening in a lot of places, man, that people aren't aware of. Are you aware that there's restaurants open in Russia right now? Like their life is normal in Russia. Did you know that?
I kind of figured it was.
Mm-hmm. They're not worried about fuck all in Russia right now. And that's not from a report.
From the way you describe it, it doesn't sound like inflation. It sounds more like price gouging.
All right, so, well, inflation and price gouging are two different things. Price gouging would be... I'll show you an example of price gouging, okay? So,
I know an example of price gouging. There was a store down the street from me. They usually sell eggs, $2.99. Went down there during one of the days of the COVID. They fucking jacked the price up almost to $8 fucking.
Look, I'm going to show you. Let's see here. Where is it? I'm trying to find one here. Right here. Okay. You can get this vest right here, pre-made. Okay. See this right here?
I already see it.
Okay. So then you've got the back part of it, right? So you've seen this vest, right? Like now you've got a pretty good idea. Okay. So this vest costs this much money.
Okay.
All right. Now I can tell you the amount of money he put in studs, you're actually paying for more of the service and the effort that it went into making this versus everything that's on there. Because that's pennies and dollars. Okay.
Right.
Depending on if he did so you're basically paying for more of the work, right? So you could really say that's price gouging. Now, here's the kicker. When you talked about that store that sells eggs for so expensive, was that a very popular store? Do a lot of people shop there, like for groceries, or is that kind of like one of those like shit? It's like fucking
It's one of the only stores in the town. So
Go right back to what I was saying, right? Small town you live in?
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you got a small town of people with a small store, and they've ordered all of this, so they're able to be like, all right, well, a lot of this is going to expire, but I need to have this many just in case, and blah, 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 right? So they're actually making so that way one carton of eggs actually pays for 2 or 3 of them, and they get to pocket a little bit of that change as well. That's to cover, again, more of the overhead, but it's a different economy system. Like, just because it's in a small town doesn't mean, like, over in New York City, everything's fucking expensive. But you also got to remember, they're making, like, if they found out that we were only making $7.50 an hour, they would laugh at us and be like, dude, I make this much money. But yeah, it kind of levels out. It kind of has a balance there, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, the whole thing's fucked. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, man. The whole thing is, but the problem is, you get these government shutdowns and you're still in to pay taxes for that. If you really wanted to help the American people, you really want to get rid of these inflations, you really want to get rid of all this, stop worrying about the stimulus checks and all that shit. Make it so that way the people don't have to pay taxes for an entire presidential term of 4 fucking years. You'd watch how quick they'd pay their bills. You'd watch how quick they'd take care of their credit scores. Watch how quick they take care of their loved ones. Watch what they do with it. You'd find a lot of people that do fuck all like me and buy a fucking yacht because I don't have kids. I don't have anybody that I'm, responsible for. I don't have another human life that I've got a dog, but she's not going to give a fuck if I've got a yacht, this apartment, or a fucking house. The dog, as long as it's got food, water, vet care, and it's got its special needs, because it is a Pomeranian. She comes with special needs. Then the dog is fine.
That makes me think. If you remember back, Tom Cruise, I think it was, he was going through a divorce with his wife, and she filed for some $200,000 child support or something like that.
Yep.
Look me in the eye and tell me it costs $200,000 to take care of a kid a month.
I don't know how much it costs to take care of one of them creatures.
At most, the very minimum, $500.
Well, for me, it's $200 in groceries every 2 weeks, about $250 maybe. Well, I just did my grocery trip at like, let's say,
$200 every 2 weeks.
Hmm? Oh, this trip is $135, but I also did like a fucking $75, $85 grocery trip about a week and a half ago.
You just solidified my point. It does not cost that much money to take care of another human being. The only reason you would ever need that kind of money is if they were in some kind of life or death kind of situation.
Well, what you're talking about right now is, now with Tom Cruise and all that, I'm sure that they have a different expectations. Maybe the daycare that they take that kid to, the school is extremely expensive, so that's going to get put into effect. Because you're talking about me versus Tom Cruise. Now, while we look the same, we have 2 different paychecks.
Well, I'm comparing Tom Cruise to the average Joe.
You can't,
because he has money.
Because he's got first world problems. Like, really.
It's not just Tom Cruise. It's anybody in that situation. Even Steve Bezos or Benzo, whatever the fuck his name is, fucking owner of Amazon.
I mean, I think that guy wakes up and shits money.
Exactly. He's the richest man in the fucking world. There's no reason why he needs that much money.
Okay, now I argue this with people all the time, and I do say this: if I made a certain amount of money and people were expecting me, like right now, I'm not even like the richest guy. I take care of myself. I'm well off. But at the same time, I'm not sitting here, without that bit. I've got OnlyFans chicks that hit me up and ask me for $20 in their Cash App or whatever, and in exchange they'll send me nudes, and I'm like, I'm never gonna buy for nudes in my life. Like, I'll get them for free, thanks. You see what I'm saying?
Shit.
Like,
where to Google,
right? Like, I've already got people. Like, I told this story, man. I ain't proud of this by any means, but a friend of mine needed help, and I thought that it was a place to live. I never expected that my friend was addicted to drugs. Like, that never even occurred to me. And come to find out, not too long after, I'd helped her out, she was getting high off of my dime. It was just the one time. It's not like I was like paying this like religiously or some shit. And this happened about a year or two ago, and
I've had
overdose.
that happen.
Yeah, overdose, dead in a bathroom. I was like, fuck. I literally just kind of, but it's not like she said it was for drugs, and then I gave her the money. It wasn't like that at all. I didn't think that was the case, but it did seem. I'm not gonna lie, it did seem suspicious to me that maybe there was something there. I guess like I thought there might be another reason for her to ask me for this money. Like I'm like, wait a minute, how is $50, $20, $30 going to help you stay an extra night at the place you live in? Like I wish I had that gig. You see what I'm saying? Like, hey man, I got like $20, $30. So there was a red flag there. And I was like, I don't think somebody would do that, but drug addicts are bad people. Like in that regard.
Drug addicts never actually ask for a big amount. They'll say, I need rent, man. Can you borrow me $30? What the fuck is really what can it do for your rent?
Yeah, well, at the time, you know what I'm saying? But now I don't lend anybody money like that unless I know you personally and like we're square. Because now I got a friend out in New Hampshire that's fucking dead. Fucking dead. And I'm never getting that money back now because she's dead.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit. The money that you earn, you should be able to keep that. But there should be a cap on how much you can make. And the rest of the money that you make through your company goes into the community.
I think that should be an option thing. And I'll tell you something else. There's a little incentive, right? You know, it's funny. We're like this whole... I was like this, not even too long ago. I was like, eat the rich and kill the rich and burn their houses, take their property. All right, I had this mentality years back, and I don't mean like 20 years ago. I mean like about 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was that angry fucking kid. But then it dawned on me, right? And especially after I got into the position that I'm in now, like you, I was kind of like, wait a minute here. Why the fuck? I could just donate money to charity, donate money to whatever. I go to the IRS. And I tell them, hey, I donated this much money to this charity. So I get a tax break, which means, okay, we're not going to take this much money. You get to keep that.
It's a loophole.
Why not just do that instead of like making it that way? It's like, but here's the other thing too. There's some of these motherfuckers, right, that they dip into their own charities that aren't actually for charity. And they just use it so that way they can make more money at the end of the year. That does happen. Problem is, it's hard proving it. But once it is proven, and this is another issue we have as a country, we're interested in blue collar crime, guns, shootings,
street crimes, drugs, Grand Theft Auto.
Right. Like those, that's like high octane television right there, my friend. Like, oh my God, fucking grand, right? But then you look at white collar crime, billions of dollars, but there's no victims. So we're like, it's kind of boring. Like there's no dead body, like nothing. Like
that's why nobody pays attention to it.
Right. So they get away with it because the media can just say, "Oh, that's not news." Like I need a dead pregnant woman floating in a lake somewhere.
It's fucking Brenda had a baby type shit.
Right. Like that's human crucifixion. I need something grand, right? Like. Harvey Weinstein is now a meme. He's now a joke, but he doesn't get the legacy of like Ted Bundy and shit. But the shit that he did is pretty fucked up.
No, he's up there with Glitter Gary.
All right, but you don't hear these names like in the same realm as you would Charlie Manson and shit like that, right? Why? Because there's no body count. That's why, essentially. So. We as a society have actually allowed these white collar crimes to go, and it seems to have been built that way. It seems like we're going to teach people because that's not something that we're born with, dude. That's nurture. That's something we are shown. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Okay, so keep us afraid, let us feel uncertain, feed us doubt on the things that we're hearing, and the media feeds off of that, and then they throw it back at us and they regurgitate it. I can't tell you how many times I started when I was a kid. I was afraid of the news. And my parents would like teachers too.
I call it the Daily Murder Report.
Yeah. So my parents and teachers, they would sit there and be like, you gotta watch the news. Like they grab you by your fucking skull and they're like, you need to watch the news. You need to watch the news. You need to watch the news.
I remember, what grade was I in? 5th or 6th grade. I can't remember. Do you remember a show called Scared Straight?
Yep.
It was my class assignment to watch that show.
Yeah, because they couldn't keep you kids straight in line, so they thought maybe if you watched a show on your own that you had to do a report on, they'd scare you straight.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's our educational system. And now we've got something called Common Core where everybody gets treated fucking equal. And I'm like, listen, I was not the kid you'd want to pick first for basketball. All right? I mean, I'm just not. And now the kids don't have a choice, right? And that's another problem in this country and in the world, really, the lack of choice, the lack of option. So the more that I see it, and the more I've been paying attention to it, and let me fucking tell you, I've been paying attention. Our kids are doomed because of not just because the parents are fucked, but because the system is fucked and the system has failed them, and it's almost like it's been failed on purpose. You don't understand, man. These people that are in poverty and things like that, they're not going to be the ones that are going to be benefiting from Biden and all that. I mean, sure, they're going to get lots of benefits. But if you remember
benefiting from Clinton, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but the Obama administration, man, like they punished me for not having health insurance. I'm like, that should be
was a joke.
Freedom. That should be an option. Why are you fining me for something I don't have that I don't want? That's like me having to pay car insurance because I don't have a car.
Yeah.
Obama fucked people royally. I'm sure there was a lot. Yeah, listen, I'm going to tell you this. More laws means less freedom. I'm telling you this right now. More laws means less freedom.
Pretty much.
So just because you've got a lot in your doctrines, you've got a lot to your name. Like, I'm sorry. Why would you have to put you've got this grand plan. Why are you fining me for something I don't have that I don't want? Why are you punishing me for that? There's no reason. Oh, it's incentive for you to go and get it. Motherfucker, if you want to, like, what happened to advertisements? Like Doritos has it down pat. Like,
no shit.
What's my incentive to get Doritos? They're fucking delicious. Sell some fucking Doritos. You ever
heard of a billboard?
Wait, I mean, fucking incentive, right?
I mean, but there's also this factor too. When I was a kid, it was impossible. When I say impossible, I mean in every fucking definition of that word. It was impossible for me to find a job, regardless of the fact that there were literally 5 businesses open dedicated to giving lower high schooler kids a chance to actually build a reputation of work. I had, I had Hot and Now. I had McDonald's, 7-Eleven.
You mean Hot and Ready?
Some Haji shop, and there was it was a mom and pop shop right off the strip on 12 Mile. There was 5 of them. I couldn't get a fucking job at a single one of them.
Yeah, because you were.
But yet every single other kid, even the neighborhood, even the fucking neighborhood retard, got a fucking job.
Okay,
but they kept looking over me.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you why. Because you wanted and needed a job, right? Yeah. These kids are told they got to get a job because they need to be taught responsibilities. These young kids, it's kind of like, again, this goes back to society. Parents want you to go get a job, so you have to understand the importance of work and such and such. But these people that do the hiring also know that their parents are the ones that are making them to get the job, so they're going to be fucking miserable at this McDonald's job. So what they're going to do is build an algorithm, right? It's kind of a weird thing, but but installed with that algorithm comes a revolving door. So they're going to be like, all right, look, listen, we hire 5 high school kids, 3 of them quit in 2 weeks. Like, we know that, so we're going to keep the for hiring sign up, right? You ever want your employees to start doing better? Just put up a for hire sign. We're hiring now. All of a sudden, you watch those. Yeah, well, why? But Home Depot and places like that always have one up. Why? Because they expect, okay, we just hired in this many people. How many of them are going to work? How many of them are going to last? And that's what they do. They're like, okay, so we actually get labor out of this person until we find another person. And then what that also does, it means I don't have to give them a raise. It means I don't have to pay them as much, right? The new people that come in, they get paid the most. They get paid more than usually the people that are there because they're start off or whatever. And so they try and like even that out at some places, not all of them. And it flips the script. And now
So they wouldn't hire me because I was willing to work, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Right. So what they are doing is they're banking on, like, why would I hire you if I've got college kids that I know they're only going to be here 6 months? I don't have to worry about promotions. I don't have to worry about raises. I get to keep you at $9.25, right? Bottom minimum, at least for my company guidelines. So I get to hire you on. I get to sit there and do interviews every damn day. I don't have to do any heavy lifting because I'm busy doing interviews. I get to boss you around. I get to tell you what to go and do. My company my CEO is a fucking happy guy because he's not going to be like, wait, why all of a sudden am I got $400,000 more coming out of the company? Well, we had people that stuck around. Shit. What if we bump them up, move them over one to like another department, and then take away their pay, and then do that? So Home Depot has actually mastered this. What they'll do is they put you on a ladder type thing. So you get to pick your career thing. So let's say I want to get into marketing. All right. So I work in the lumberyard and I go into them and say, hey, I want to get involved in marketing. Right. I don't have college or none of that shit, but I want to get involved in the marketing aspect of it. What they're going to do is make you walk around the store. Right. Every 6 months, you're going to be put into a department. Now you're trained to be in all these different departments. Right. So somebody calls out, you got to go fill in that one because you have experience in carpet and rug and carpet and what have you. Oh, somebody called out for paint. Guess who's got 3 years of experience over at paint because of what they chose to do. What you're doing by doing that, you're not showing incentive for your job that you want. You're showing incentive to work there. So they built this system to where you don't climb this ladder. They're like, oh, you really want to work here. Well, now they got something called salary. So if you make salary, they're like, we don't got to pay them hourly anymore. We can pay them base rate at $350 a week, right?
I just
Solid,
want to interrupt real quick. My favorite salad is a Caesar salad. My favorite salad is a Caesar salad.
Salary.
What? I don't put celery in my fucking salad. This is nasty, dude.
Okay, so
what's wrong with you?
So how a salary works is it's your baseline pay no matter how many hours you work. But what companies learned is now I can make you work more hours. So really, you'd be making less money salary than you would hourly. But you work up to salary because you're thinking in your head, and they got it in your head, oh, even if you only work 20 hours, you're still making this much money. And they're like, oh, I like the sounds of it. But you really think any company, why do you think Aldi's, they bump up to managers as fast as they possibly can? That's their job, is to get you up to management so they can get you up to salary so they don't have to pay you as much. You're capped off right there. You're capped off right there.
And the only thing, 2-3 jobs a fucking week. Right.
And now all of a sudden you've got 5-6 managers there with 3 employees. And you're like, well, when do you get your own store? Like, when do you get to move up in the company? You fucking don't. That's how their system works. That's how they figure that shit out. You want to go work elsewhere? There's a warehouse.
Don't go to the warehouse. Don't go to the warehouse.
Don't get into a job, and this is my advice to anybody, don't get into a job that has quota in any regard. Don't do it.
That's
because here's a kicker.
Job out there now.
In quota, do you know why there's a lot of companies that are doing that with the quota shit? Because if you don't, in their terms of agreement, when you sign off,
are bullshit.
When you're doing quotas or things by quota, they don't have to pay you your full paycheck.
No, they don't. I actually worked for a company. My very first job was working for, if I can remember, Detroit News and Free Press. But it wasn't an official job because I was working under the table. My boss, Daniel Procopio, was a complete fucking dick. But I was going door to door and selling newspapers, and sometimes my check would be $150 or whatever, and then another time my check was only fucking $25.
Yep.
Because I wasn't meeting the quota.
Right. So really what they're doing by this is, and this is one of the reasons why I don't mind doing a job for their 90-day thing, because with jobs that have quotas, they'll hire you on for like 90 days. What I try and do is I'll work until like
Factories do
the
that.
89th day, and then I quit.
But
And
you have to beat them to the punch though, because they will fire you 1 week before you hit that 90-day mark.
right, which is fine by me, because then I don't have to worry about whether or not I made my quota. Because when I found out I was making $11.50 an hour at a factory, I think is what it was. I think maybe it was $9.50, $10, $11. It was a decent amount for New Hampshire, anyways. Because again, minimum wage $7.25, and there was no company really that was like, oh, they can't live off of $7.25 an hour. There were people that were like, oh, sweet, we don't have to pay them shit. This is excellent. So what they would do is they'd say, yeah, you get to make this much, but you have to meet your quota. And if you're drilling gun barrels and shit goes awry, like the drill bits burn out, one of the drills is not working, you have to put it down in all your paperwork and shit. And most of the time, I'd forget to do my paperwork, which was fine because I was still within my 90 days. And I'm like, I don't want to have to do the paperwork. I don't want to have to worry about this, that, and the other. I'm like, I thought that I could just, so I wanted to go switch. I wanted to go inspect gun barrels because the oil was getting me sick anyways. Being around the gun oil, being around it, it was making me sick.
Oh, hell no.
So they wouldn't switch me over. So I'm like, listen, this sucks, but I'm not working tonight then. Like, sorry to do that to you, but I'm done. So I quit. I've done the same thing to other places too. When they were going to have me work, it was like 8 a.m. until what's the term they call it? I forget the term.
Third shift, second shift.
Yeah. So, but it was until until I could slow down or whatever, which didn't happen until 10 o'clock at night. So really what it meant was, yeah, you only have to work from 8 a.m. to this time, but that basically means you don't have to stay for cleanup, which only takes another hour anyway. So you might as well just stay that hour to clean. Then we're going to have to do that and then be up again at 8 a.m. I'm like, technically speaking, I can't even get enough sleep to be able to get back up for a 6, 7, 8 a.m. shift. I just can't do it, technically speaking. So I just went downstairs and I told the guy, I says, listen, I saw my schedule. It's fucked. It is volume. That's what it is. It's 8 a.m. to volume, and that's when you've basically gotten all the plates out. You're like past the expected amount. Like, what's volume today? 60,000 plates. So after 60,000 plates, you made volume and you can go. But in the summertime, that number is much higher. And weekends are a must type shit, right? Which I had no problem doing. I never asked for weekends off. I'm like, dude, I'll fucking work weekends. Don't give a fuck. Give me the fucking, like my friend and I used to do this all the time. We used to, because in the summertime, you'd get more hours on the weekends because you have to stay later. But then you can get Monday and Tuesday off. So you bust your ass Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You get Monday, Tuesday off. You're back at it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's what we did. That is exactly what we did. And that's what I was trying to do with these other jobs. And they're like, yeah, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, that's fucked. Why? Those are like your two least busiest days, man. I'm doing you a favor. That's another thing too. You can't get your guaranteed days off. I remember when I was at Home Depot and shit. They were good to me for a while about getting time off and shit. But when people would start quitting the lumberyard, and I was the only guy that was working there, they'd have me work lumber, then garden, and this is when I was done. So I was told I was working lot. Okay. I was told I was working lot. That was my job for the night. Sweet. I get to work lot. Fuck yeah. So I get there and it's snow, winter time, right? So it's like, it's going to be fucking dead, fucking glorious. I love this. This is epic. Because being lot guy in the wintertime, you work, your actual work for an 8-hour shift is about 2 hours. And that's throughout the whole day. Not like you get there 2 hours and then you're done. It's like 2 hours of actual work you do during an 8-hour shift. It's fucking great. So I found out that I was going to be outdoors lot guy for this shift, and I couldn't fucking wait. I think it was only like one of those like 5-hour shifts, all right? Because it's wintertime, right? So the shifts are, no one's really digging holes and building decks in the winter, right? So now I'm like even more excited because I'm like guaranteed like what? after taxes and all that shit, about $35-$40 for doing fuck all. Yeah,
Pretty much.
it's an easy payday. So I'm out there doing the lot shit, like I'm like pushing the carts and all this, that, and the other. And this girl comes out from Millworks and she says, "Hey, somebody at the saw needs you." I'm like, "I'm lot tonight. Like, what the fuck?" So she goes, "I can't cut." And I says, who is in lumber tonight? So I run inside and I'm cutting the lumber. And Nicole runs up to me. I'm not afraid to use that cunt's name. Nicole runs up to me. She goes, "Aren't you supposed to be in lot?" I went, "I don't want to be here in lumber. I was told to come here." And she was like, "You need to go back out to lot." So I go back out to lot.
Right.
I'm pushing the
I
carts away.
gotta take care of something real quick.
Go. So I'll finish this up real quick. So basically what ended up happening is I get chewed out, right? I get chewed out and for being back out in lot. I was told, "Oh, you need to be in lumber." I just got chewed out by Nicole for being at the saw. Why am I getting in trouble for now being out in the lot? And I was told when I first got hired on at Home Depot that there was no communication issues, because that's one of the things I told them when I got interviewed. They're like, "So do you have any questions?" I'm like, "Yeah, how's the communication in this fucking place? How's the communication in it, right? Is it any fucking good? Probably not." But I believed them. They're like, "Oh yeah, communication's great." And for a while it was. We're all on the same page. It was excellent. And then they started doing the fuck all thing. They started doing the fuck arounds and shit like that. So honestly, in my opinion, I think that a lot of these companies, what they're doing is they're nudging off of Aldi. They're biting off of the working class, and they are abusing, in not so many terms, in not so many ways to put it, but they are really abusing the employees. And if you think that that's bad, the working class, imagine what's going on at the higher level, which is the government. Think about that for a minute. But hopefully Twiggy's back here soon, because I'm all done. I've gone way over my 1 hour, and I actually really just fucking hurt Twitch. I hurt us really bad. I shared it out. Nobody gave a fuck. One viewer. I think we had two at one point. And then that person dipped when they found out that, I have a philosophy on anarchy. And apparently the part that really upset them was that I could read. So that also happened. So, yeah. Oh, look, a second person just popped back in as I said that. Still hurt our averages, though. We had to be at 3.5. And even if I stayed on for this next 20 minutes, which it's just going to eat up my StreamYard hours anyway, it's really not worth it. So, Twiggy, hurry the fuck back up so I can get out of here. Flacky69 said, "What's going on?" We're done. We're done, Flacky. Sweetheart, my friend down in South Africa. We're done here. I got to read a little bit from my books. You can always catch the replay. But we didn't make our quota for the three viewers or whatever for today. So hopefully some of the viewership, it does balance out. Otherwise, we lose our partnership with Twitch. Yeah, that happened. So that was effective. I'm waiting for Twiggy to get back so I can be...
Well, I'm back. I'm just putting my face on.
It wouldn't load.
My stream wouldn't load?
It wouldn't load for me. I tried.
Wait, what happened?
I'll try again.
Twiggy, you hearing this?
Maybe it's just
What?
Some people had a hard time getting to our live, I guess, tonight.
What, on Twitch?
Yeah.
Why?
So I've got the
Let's see.
I've got the ad, but it won't go after the ad.
It won't play after the ad?
Yeah, hold on. It wouldn't the first time. This
That's odd.
Crazy McCorbin used to bring that up. Yeah, I'm watching it right.
No, it's working now.
Oh, it's working now? Okay. So my guess is people showed up. They couldn't... Oh, no, because even mine's buffering now.
So maybe it's because both of us are trying to be on.
Could be something with the server.
We just got fucked by Twitch. That was...
You're
Oh, we go that far yet.
Oh, mine's buffering.
Yeah, mine's not working. Mine's a black screen. Look.
Only one person can be on.
Well, I'm checking on mine right now.
Bro. Only one person can be on at a time from the Wi-Fi?
Apparently, it's working for me.
What, on Twitch?
Yeah. But good news is we got.
I'm getting a 5 gum advertisement right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting too. Yeah. So, Twiggy, I just want to let you know. Find the show for a few minutes because it kept playing old shows. Weird. So, Twiggy, you can join me in leaving Twitch, or you can stay. But I'm officially letting everybody know right now. I'm leaving Twitch. I'm going back to Facebook. You guys can find me at the Sid Jones Network. As far as I'm concerned with this whole Twitch thing, Crazy McCormick can handle it. I can actually say for now, I think the third time, I quit. I quit doing Twitch. I'm going to do my thing as my executive order. So you can come with me or you can stay over here, but that is entirely up to you. And it wouldn't connect to Wi-Fi either. So you bring that up with Crazy McCormick. Get back to me.
Yeah,
I'm busy.
about it.
I'm busy this week. I'm actually going to be on Oh the Horrors podcast this Sunday. I'm very excited for that. I get to be on that podcast. I'm fucking pumped.
Wait. I gotta figure out where they are. Where the hell are they? No. Here they are. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, B-level films.
Are you fucking serious? Do you not see what's in there? Dude.
I can't actually. Oh, it's behind Creepshow. I can't see behind Creepshow. The gold one. Yeah. Oh, 1408. Okay, that's good. I couldn't see what it was. The Final Destination 4-pack. I got all 6 of them. Nice. Wasn't there 6 of them, though?
Yeah. There is another one coming out, actually.
Yeah, there's Final Destination 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there's only 5. There's a 6th one coming out.
Yeah, there's only 5 in there. Last time I checked, there's supposed to be another one coming out either this year. No, not this year, but next year or 2022.
All right, so listen, you guys catch the replay. You guys get to hear me read a little bit from all of my books. I'm really sorry that happened to you guys, but do you know where that doesn't happen? That doesn't happen at Facebook. So you take it up with Crazy McCormick. We're done here. Yeah, I'm out. Much love to you guys. I'll catch you guys this Saturday. We're gonna work on a new schedule over at the Asylum. I'm just gonna start doing spontaneous lives over at the Facebook, and Twiggy, Crazy McCormick, and all those guys. They'll be here on Twitch. Much love to each and every one of you. You guys ain't down with this. Fuck what you think, and I'll catch you guys on the road. Much love.
Fridays, 9 p.m. Creature Feature. Don't miss it.
What's on for the Creature Feature this week?
Did you not just see what I did?
Yeah, no. Which one? You're not going to show all of those.
Well, no. I guess it's just going to be a surprise then, isn't it?
Okay, that's what I was asking, you dick. Jesus. Much love, guys.